Good afternoon, Rotarians, friends, and guests. We are so excited to have you here today. And thank you, Tom Wolf, for playing today. I heard some applause breaking out for him over there. I am Becky Fields, and I'm president of this great club. And as long as you're standing, will you guys do something for me real quick? Will you put your hands together? Put your hands together like this. Like this, and smile, your best smile for me. Okay, really quickly. 1, 2, 3. Okay, the lighting's weird. I'm going to do one more. Just one more. Actually, Congressman, will you do that with this?
I will. It's going to be hard to put my hands together. I'm just saying.
No, yeah, you don't have to. No prayer yet. Okay, we got it. Hang on one second. I got to send this to my mom. Mom, I got a standing ovation today in Rotary. Sometimes you got to create your own fans, right? I mean, your own magic. All right. Let's begin our program with an invocation from Justin Jones, song and pledge from Kyden Creek Palm, and visitor introductions from past President Ed Monette.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Justin Jones, and I'd like to start this invocation with a moment of silence for this past weekend. I'm sure you've seen the news from El Paso and from Dayton, Ohio, and so I thought it'd be very appropriate for us to just have a moment of silence. I'll close in a word of prayer. Lord, make us instruments of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us show love. Where there is injury, let us show pardon. Where there is doubt, faith, and where there is despair, let us show hope. Where there is darkness, let us show your light. And where there is sadness, let us show your joy. Amen.
Hello, everyone. Please join Maestro Tom Wolf and I in God Bless America. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Welcome again, everyone, to the Rotary Club of Tulsa. I am honored to be able to introduce our guests and host Rotarians. If when I call your name, if you'll briefly stand up so we can take a peek at you and sit back down. We'll hold our applause till the very end. We have quite a few guests, almost as many guests until there are days until kickoff, which is 25, but we have just a few less than that. Rotarian Tom Wolf has 2 guests. He has Skip Steele and Pamela Lindley. Rotarian Kevin Murray brought with him Tate Cabot and the lovely Katie Murray. Jerry Barrientos has a couple of guests, Rocky Goins and Lynn Flynn. Michelle Choquette is the guest of Connie Pearson. Stevie Charis is the guest, or is the host of Mark Bloomingdale. Jerry Dillon is the host of Deputy Chief Jonathan Brooks. He needs a... Rotarian Eric Cullen has brought with him Kate Bartholomew, excuse me. Roger Ramsire has with him Kevin Akers. Charles Crane has Patrick Sullivan. Let's give all our guests a round of applause. We have several visiting Rotarians here and an international visitor, just for you, Congressman Hearn, from the Netherlands, Hans Christian Gocha. Denmark, sorry. It's across the ocean. All right. From Aspen, we have Keith Elder. Hi, Keith. That's Colorado. From the Sand Springs Club, Harlan Pinkerton. The Sunrise Rotary Club and Rotaract, Cole Adamson. From the Broken Arrow Club and soon to be transferring here, and the guest of Jake Dollarhide, Matt Hancock. And from Rotaract, Roxanne Bilby with Tiffany Egdorf. Thank you all for being here, and please return.
Thank you all for choosing to be at Rotary today, and I know it's a choice for you. As successful, high-achieving individuals, I know that you have a busy schedule, and I know that because I talk to some of you, and we all sometimes kind of slide in sideways, wondering if we're going to get here on time and thinking of, client things that we just handled in the morning. And Tina and I, whenever we talk about this meeting, we always talk about we really want it to be the highlight of your week. We really want it to be something that you look forward to coming to seeing your friends. And the thing is we have a big, big vision in Rotary that we talk about a lot. But one thing that I have learned is that we cannot give out of an empty bucket. And so today, I want to do a little exercise with you that I had to do for myself yesterday because I was saying, oh my word, I'm so busy, I'm so burned out, I'm so tired, I'm so stressed out. Has anyone had any of those thoughts yet this week? Okay, good. I'm not alone, good. Thank you for not leaving me hanging on that one. So, did you know that you can change your thoughts, you can change your outcome just really quickly, just with a little body physiology? So let me show you a quick example. So if you will for me, we have a lot of crowd participation today, so bear with me. If you'll slump over in your chair a little bit, put your head down, your eyes down, kind of downtrodden, right? And then if you'll put your shoulders back, look up, put a smile on your face, and take a deep breath. Isn't that relaxing? And it just gives your body a chance to re-energize, to refocus, and then you can get back going again. And it's not that you won't be busy this afternoon. It's not that you won't have client things. It's not that everything won't be pulling on you in every direction. But flight attendants do say to put on your own oxygen mask first before you help those around you. And since we are out there helping those around us, day in and day out in our jobs and our families and in Rotary, I just wanted to let you take a minute today and breathe in deeply and just take a little bit to enjoy your time with your friends today. So I'd like to give special thanks to this week's meeting sponsors, David Wolfers of James Potts and Wolfers Inc., and also Paul Baumann of Bank First. Thank you so much. And for club announcements today, we have 3 committee meetings. Trustees are meeting in room 233, programs are meeting in room 234, and partners in education are meeting in room 232. And for those new members who might not know what some of these are, just for example, partners in education, this is our partnership with Celia Clinton, and this is a wonderful avenue if you love to serve youth and children. Pop in there. You can go to any committee meeting that you want one time. You don't have to sign up. You can just see what they're doing and see the exciting things they have. And Daniel has some exciting things for us. Daniel Gomez, will you raise your hand? He's working on some really cool things for us. So that one might be one you want to join today if you can save some time right after Rotary and meet there. Also, exciting news and upcoming programs. Next week is Governor Kevin Stitt, who I know we'll all look forward to hearing from. And then on August 21st, Jim Halsey, the original star maker and legendary music producer, will be our speaker. Dr. Jim Halsey has set the standard in the music industry for over 60 years. In his honored career, he has guided and in many cases discovered world-famous household names that you know, such as the Oak Ridge Boys, Roy Clark, Hank Thompson, Reba McEntire, just to name a few. So you won't want to miss either of those, and make sure and invite a guest. Also, in other exciting news, our Rotary Youth Exchange student, Andy Yu Kwan Wu, arrived in Tulsa last week from Taiwan. Special thanks to Jason George and his family for hosting Andy, and to Jerry Stamper for serving as his counselor. You will be able to meet Andy soon, so he'll be at a meeting with us soon. We really look forward to that. At this time, I would like to call forward Tana Scott for our Sergeant at Arms time. Hi. Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
And how are you, ladies and gentlemen of Rotary Club of Tulsa? Okay, so Shark Week is over. Everybody knows that. I'm sure we're all mourning Shark Week being over, right? So I was like, oh, I can get a really great Shark Week slide or meme or something. And then I thought, couldn't find really anything great. And then I was like, oh, well, the PBR is coming this weekend. And then I found a lot of memes for that, and it was really like, oh, I thought PBR stood for Pabst Blue Ribbon. Is that how you say that? Pabst. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever. So people are confused about the acronym PBR. And so, no joke, this meme was under PBR memes. Do we have any PBR fans in here? I know Matt Hancock is definitely a PBR fan. Is he alone? Are we? Okay, so this meme was under the PBR. So Steve, just hang on. 10 seconds for the record, just hang on. Please do not forget about our 918 contest. Send to me. We will post them all and then announce the winner for a $50 gift card to Flying T. And now it is fine time. For our first fine, it is our amazing executive director. It was her birthday on Monday. Does everybody remember this? Does everybody wish Tina a happy birthday? Happy birthday, Tina. She has donated $100 to the Nicaragua Water Well Project in celebration of her birthday, August 5th, and her 32nd wedding anniversary, August 8th. And sweet Linda, her mother, donated $54. And the word on the street is Tina is so organized that she planned her own birthday and blew up her own balloons just to make sure. Is that right? and the invitations are in the mail? Okay.
I
so
believe
just
it.
Be prepared. Our next fine is from Eric Cullen. So Eric is responsible for 131 years of wrongful imprisonment, getting those inmates released. And I don't know if you guys saw his front page article in the Tulsa World. Eric, are you here? Is he here? Oh, there you go. And not only did he donate $131, but we had an anonymous donation for $100 to celebrate your work. Thank you so much, Eric. And Jenny Hammock donated $50, celebrating 8 years in Rotary, as well as becoming an owner in her company, BKL. It's architecture and engineering, and she said she didn't have anything really cute to do with the math. She is an architect. She leaves the math to the engineers. Thank you so much, Jenny. Where are you? You here? Raise your hand. Thank you. John O'Connor, thank you so much. He donated $100 for his 41st anniversary. Right? So, in sending all of these emails that I send for anniversaries and the duration of anniversaries is pretty incredible. I had one for 71 years, which is amazing. And I just thought, what's the secret, right? What you guys, the men, have to have figured something out, right? It's what do women want? Well, I just, this is a really great meeting. Kevin Hearn is here, but this slide is really going to help all of you men move forward in really giving women, your wife, what we want. It's basic. We want everything and nothing at different moments, but at the same time. Sometimes and never, but always. Always. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Mike. Here's my number. Call me if you have a fine, a donation, a celebration. I will be gone next week, so you can start mourning my absence now, but please feel free to keep sending. I will send out emails. See you on the 21st of August. Thank you guys so much.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tana, and to all of those who are giving. We really appreciate your gifts. At this time, I get to introduce our Rotarian of the Day. Past President John O'Connor is a shareholder with Hall Estill. He practices primarily in the areas of corporate and business law and litigation. John is a multiple Paul Harris Fellow and has been a Rotarian for 36 years. John and his wife Lucia are currently serving as co-chairs for McDazzle Fun Ball in August of 2019, and the chairs for the William Booth Society benefiting the Salvation Army in April 2020. They also served as co-chairs of the Bishop Kelly High School 50th anniversary celebration and of Christ the King Catholic Church's 100th anniversary gala. As you heard, John and his beautiful wife, Lucia, recently celebrated their 41st wedding anniversary. They have 4 children and 6 adorable grandchildren. Please welcome past President John O'Connor.
Thank you, President Becky. I always say, once I figure out Lucia, she's moved. And once she figures me out, I've moved. So anyway, 41 years, it's been a lot harder for me for Lucia than me. But it's an honor to introduce to you all today my friend Kevin Hern, our congressman. He's really one of us. He's a small business owner. He started with nothing. He's a hard worker. He's a smart worker. You go back, if you recall, during the campaign, we learned from him that for many years as he was growing up, they had no running water inside the home. And so he's literally the American story, the American dream. And it's wonderful for all of us who work hard and try to build our place in the world. Kevin is a role model for us. In high school, he was involved with vocational technical enrollment in addition to his classes. So very important for us today as we consider the Tulsa Public Schools and Tulsa vocational education. He worked as an aerospace engineer for Rockwell. He got an MBA, he got a mechanical engineering degree, has been a computer programmer, bought his first McDonald's restaurant in 1999, sold an interest in a hog farm to do that. He owns 10 McDonald's restaurants in the Tulsa area, employs 400 of our citizens, and he's been involved in the McDonald's system, which has given him a broader sort of national scope. He served for 5 years as chairman of the systems economic team, which took him into representing basically 14,000 franchisee owners. He was deeply steeped then in the issues regarding taxes and insurance for all those employers. So he and his wife Tammy live in Tulsa. They have 3 children. One thing I liked that got me on Kevin's bandwagon earlier, in the midst of some very good other candidates, he doesn't need the job. He doesn't need or seek the spotlight. He's trying to give back through public service. And so please, he's going to give his presentation and then take some questions and answers from us. So let's give him a warm Rotary welcome, our 1st District Congressman, Kevin Hern.
Well, it's great to be here. Becky, thank you so much. It's great talking to you. We're beating up on the husbands today at lunch here. I want to remind you of something. So there's this proverb from Africa. It says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And so my partner is my wife, Tammy, so thank you for being here today. She is, I will tell you, she is my first and foremost reader of Facebook and Twitter and all that. And so I hear that before I get to see it. So it's interesting. One of the biggest surprises I've seen in Congress is I've got about 50% of the people love me and 50% of the people hate me. Before this, I thought that everybody loved me, but so maybe it's eye-opening when you do this. I don't know. But a little history. I actually checked this morning. It's been 280 days exactly since I was here last, and it was during October 31st that we were here, and I really appreciate the opportunity to get back here. I can tell you just a little bit of information about what's happened. Many of you may know and certainly understand that Jim Bridenstine got sworn in as the administrator of NASA, so he left early, and I was fortunate enough to get sworn in as the congressman, your congressman, on November 13th, literally 7 days after the election. So I have the illustrious and distinct title of being the most senior member of the freshman class. Now, that and 25 cents, maybe 30 cents will get you a cup of coffee at McDonald's. I happen to know that. But so 2 months I was in the majority. Now, we didn't have any committees, so it was very slow. We were in the process of being in a lame duck. So then on January 2nd, got sworn in under the 116th Congress in the minority for the last almost 7 months. And you've heard this your whole life, but majority rules in the House of the people. So the people's house, majority rules. So one vote matters, one voter matters in the House. And so right now there's about a 35 vote margin with Democrats and Republicans, so the entire agenda is controlled by who's ever in the majority. It just so happens it's the Democrats, so that agenda gets to be promoted and argued and debated. And our founders, with divine intervention, you know, we sang a song, God Bless America. We swore our allegiance to the flag, and that's something we should never forget. People have asked me, said, have you lost hope? And I said, no, I knew, you know, what little I knew about, you know, reading the Federalist Papers and what drove the constitutional ideas. We got to where we're at today. It was meant to be argumentative. It was meant to keep people at the table. Otherwise, it'd become a communist country. So I am perfectly fine with what's going on. I'd love to debate my ideas on, you know, getting regulations out of the way of job creators, putting Americans to work. I would love to debate that every single day. I think that's our pathway forward. You know, so I get to see a lot of different things in Washington, D.C. I will tell you, I was just telling Becky, I have been in the restaurant business since 1987. I've been a franchisee for over 22 years, 21 years. But I will tell you that I have never been as busy as I am right now. It is nonstop. Because you get there with an idea, as I just told you, everybody runs on an idea. And my idea, again, was to get regulations out of the way. People want to create jobs, put Americans to work. I think that's a pathway. It's what Ronald Reagan said was the greatest social program in the world is a job. But every single day, you're getting ramped up on issues like budgeting, tariffs, trade, tax policies, health care policies, geopolitical issues, a thing called the Mueller investigation, Russian voter interference, Chinese hacking, appropriations process, and all of the classified briefings that we have about people who want to do us harm around the world, and there are many. Thankfully, that's the one thing that's not leaked out of Washington, D.C., because both Democrats and Republicans are sitting in a top secret, secure, compartmentalized situation where not even military without proper authorization can be in there, and we're hearing about the global geopolitical issues around the world. There are a lot of bad actors out there that you never hear about on the news. That everything that we do every single day is about protecting this country from those bad actors. Well, I said it's a very active place. The actual results coming out of Congress move at a very slow pace. There are a ton of parliamentary procedures that have to go through and processes that have to go through to just introduce a bill. As a matter of fact, there are not many people. Most of the time what happens is people get bills to be introduced. So if they're on a committee, which I serve on budget because I wanted to know where the money's at, and I do, or where it's not at. And secondly, I'm on small business. And then thirdly, on natural resources. So 3 committees that are very, very busy right now. And so it really taxes my staff to really stay on top of all the processes and the various legislation coming through. A lot of times those committees will give the legislation to a member that's in a troubled district. We've worked really hard to do the right things in this district, so we're not one of those fortunate people that, you know, get some of these real tight marginal districts yet. So we have to go and look and see what matters to the people in our district first, and our state second, and around the world as it applies to what's happened to our country. So right before I left, which was about 2 weeks ago now, not quite 2 weeks ago, we introduced 2 bills, our first 2 bills. One pertains directly to, I think Mr. DeBar is here somewhere. Where are you at, sir? Are you here? Anyway, one of the big issues we had during the flooding was the ability to communicate. The Corps of Engineers were communicating based on water on the ground. Seems pretty simple, but it's very devastating if you live real close to the dam, like the people of Town and Country in Sand Springs. So if the rules are not working for the people, it's our job in Congress to work on changing those rules. So we introduced legislation to change that right before we left. I'm sure it'll be very bipartisan. It's a problem across the country. Again, I'm not sure why it hasn't been changed, and for however many years this has been this way, but they'll be able to communicate on a National Weather Service forecast, which will give more people down the river. Our colleague here who coordinated all that, Mr. Brooks here, Officer Brooks, it was kind of challenging, wasn't it, sir? But a lot of things went on there that if we had more lead time, if you will, on when the locks were going to be opened up, more water coming out of the river, we could have done a lot better job on saving some property. And so we're working on that. That's directly pertaining to the district. Also, a very tough situation. I have been to the border, and I have seen what's happened at the border. I've also seen all the arguments. I also know that this has been an issue since 1980s on the issue of fixing immigration. One of the travesties that goes on down there are a lot of folks who die not coming through our points of entry. And it's because of the coyotes and the cartels taking people's money and pushing them across the river and say, you're on your own. And then they have no water when they get there, and they want to seek asylum, but they've been told this is the way to do it. And so what we want them to do, and I've seen the folks at the border applying for asylum. You have protection from our protection by our Customs and Border Protection agencies that are keeping cartels away from the borders. The cartels don't want to come there. They're getting water, they're getting blankets at night, they're getting an air-conditioned area. If a woman is pregnant, she's getting brought into the facility where she is examined by doctors. It's a much more safe environment. Senator Inhofe took the lead on that on the Senate side. I took it on the House side. So you have two people that are working to try to make it a safer, more thorough process for folks that are seeking asylum. It's not about stopping the asylum process. That's never been about that. It's a legitimate way to get out of a country and go to the next country. So those two big bills, one representing the district, one representing our country. One of the big things we got involved in early was this whole conversation about robocalls. It seems that it's like gone out of control. It's like 3 times what it was last year and growing like crazy. So you're going to hear a lot about that when we go back. As I mentioned, natural resources and small business and budget. Give me about a 5-minute warning here so I don't run over here because I've got like 3 hours worth of stuff. You learned that in Congress. So we had a small business, again, getting everything back to the district, we had a small business hearing. I've been in business my entire life. You don't get anything done doing it yourself. You have to have a lot of folks working together. And when I worked at the National Leadership Council, pro bono, you do this as an owner-operator of McDonald's. You give yourself, pay it forward, if you will. McDonald's is the most diverse country, or most diverse company in this country and around the world, wins the award every year. So you work with Democrats, Republicans, all diversity groups, and you have to pull forward. You have to pull it forward to make it work. So this is something I've been doing for 30 years. So my ideologies are, one, I want to listen. I have my core beliefs of who I am and what I got elected. But I'm also willing to listen to ideas on how we move things that are, that we don't talk about on campaigns and moving it forward. And when you look at stuff like on small business, people are also willing to listen to you if you've got experiences. We had a small business hearing in the district. I am the ranking member, which means the chairman for the Republican side, on access to capital, tax, and growth policies for small business in America. And it's a lot of fun because I don't take any notes to these meetings, because when you've lived it your entire life, you know exactly what the problems are. And what's interesting about it, because again, the Democrats are in control, the majority of the witnesses are Democrat. But after they talked for about 1 minute of their 5 minutes, you couldn't tell if they were a D or an R. And I always call them out on that. I always start out with my bio, which is very brief, about my experiences in small business, and I go on to compliment them that you really don't give 2 hoots about politics. You just want the government out of your way. And you'll be amazed to see everybody start shaking their head. So when you get the politics out of a lot of these things, you find out that a lot of people that are creating jobs in America just want people to leave them alone. 28 million businesses in America are small businesses. About 99.4% of the firms in America are small business. They represent about 70% of the jobs in America. When you have that going on, you need small businesses to grow, because every large business that we think of today started as a small business. Amazon, garage. Microsoft, a garage. Stanford guys, 2 guys, started this thing called Google in their dorm room. It goes on and on and on. And we need to make sure that people who have ideas can get access to capital so that they can grow and start these small businesses and not guarantee them outcomes and successes. Many of you in this room know the greatest experiences that you've had and learned are from your failures, not your successes. Failure is a part of the American dream process. I can tell you, I've had plenty of mine, and I've learned a lot more from them. I can remember every single one of them, more so than I can my successes. And I would venture to say that's the same for you. We can't eliminate failure from the process on this journey through life. The budget process is terribly broken. I said I wanted to be on there because I wanted to know where the money was going. No, you don't. It's an incredible thing. I'll be honest with you. I voted against the budget, the quote bipartisan budget agreement 2 weeks ago. When you add $320 billion over the next 2 years, $2 trillion over the next decade, and we're at $23 trillion in debt, we're going to surpass $1 trillion in debt next year, or debt just in 1 year next year on toward in 2029, 10 years from now, we'll be at $2 trillion a year. There's no stop in spending in sight. And the problem is normally you would see that, this all started back when we had our collapse in 2008, and that's when you typically see people borrow money, just like in the real world, to get caught back up, except we haven't stopped. We liked it so much we kept doing it. And when you just look at the explosion of our debt since 2004, really, it's quadrupled since about 3.5 times since 2004, and it's going like crazy. In fact, in about 4 years from now, right now the spending on interest, the interest on our debt, which is a mandatory expense, the spending on that is about half our defense. In about 4 years, it will eclipse what we're spending on national defense. Much of that interest is going to places like China and Japan. And think about that. We're borrowing money from places abroad so that we can spend more money on our defense to protect us from those same places we borrow the money from. I mean, you can't make some of this stuff up. It's like a comic book. So we've got a lot of opportunity here to sit down and talk about things that really matter. We're all fussing in D.C. over a declining amount of money. When you look at the total budget, we're talking right now, we're talking about 28% of all revenues in the United States, all tax dollars from whether it's payroll, corporate, or personal, going to the general budget in Washington, D.C. We're fussing over about 28% right now. 72% is on autopilot. We never talk about it. And that includes interest on the debt. In 10 years, we'll be under 20%. So it's a declining number of everything. National defense, we were about 5% about 5 years ago. We're going to be at 2.7% next year. The lowest amount we've ever spent on national defense in the last 100 years. It's big dollars, but as it relates to what we're taking in and the exposures around the world that I just mentioned earlier, it's a very small amount. Because you know what? People are not wanting to sneak into China. They're not wanting to go attack China. They're not wanting to go take over spots across the world. I encourage you for your homework today to go look up this thing called Belt and Road. Belt and Road. It's the new way that China's going across the nations. They're contiguous to them. They haven't gotten to our part of the world yet. But they would try to do that with Huawei, is they go and create an infrastructure project, fund it, create debt for that country, make the cost of the debt so high that they default, then they take it over, plant their Chinese army in there to protect their assets, and now they have a Chinese-owned asset in a foreign country for a military outpost. It's their narrative. So, you know, the economy is whether you like the president or not, we don't have to get into that right now. It's probably, statistically speaking, be about half and half. The economy is growing like it's never grown before. I mean, the numbers, nobody can argue the numbers. I mean, the jobs are at 50-year lows as far as job unemployment, number of people employed, more people employed today than the history of the country. Just a fact. I mean, one thing about me, you get the facts from me. The other thing is, the facts is that our fossil fuel energy in America matters. It matters to the state. I'm an all of the above kind of guy. I think we need to have renewables. I think we need to have wind. We need solar. We need hydro. We need all of these. We need nuclear. Tammy and I grew up within 5 miles of a nuclear plant our entire life. And I think if you turn the lights off, we're not glowing. So it's safe. It's important that we get the second life license for these nuclear power plants to last another 40 or 50 years. There's nothing more clean than nuclear power energy. Probably the next thing to that is hydro, but we need the rain to fall. Solar, we need the sun to shine, and the wind, we need the wind to blow. We know that Oklahoma has got the second largest number of wind farms in the nation. We've got a great example of how energy is supposed to be ran with GRDA over here. And we actually have one of the largest wind farm manufacturers, builder of towers, up here at Arcosa. You see the pipes being trucked through. That's what those are. That's how massive these things are. So I'm an all of the above. I think we have fossil fuels. I mean, this Green New Deal about eliminating all fossil fuels in 10 years is crazy. In fact, they don't even talk about it anymore, but I'd love to because it's on every committee I'm on and then all the other 18 committees. I love to bring it up all the time. What about the Green New Deal? Where did that go? Because they know that it's just impossible to do. We need to do what we've always done. Customers demand it. Business produces it, innovates it, and that's what we're doing. We've lowered CO2 emissions immensely. We need to help the rest of the world. We've got a bunch of clean stuff called natural gas that we need to get around the world to help lower CO2 emissions around the world where the really bad polluters are. Skills gap, we talked about, every place I've gone, people need workers everywhere. We've got 7.6 million jobs. We've got about 6 million people looking. The 6 million aren't where the 7.6 million are. We've got great career centers both here, Bartlesville, and around this state. We need to get people trained, cross-trained, and trained to get them in those jobs so they can understand and experience what it's like to have a job. I always like to say I like to make America tired again. Put them in a job. Makes this gentleman's job a lot easier when people are actually sleeping at night instead of out doing bad stuff. Fair enough? That's why they love me. They're just trying to keep people off the street. But we got a lot to do. One of the most controversial things that came through in our support was H.R. 1044 2 weeks ago about a merit-based system of keeping our scientists, our high-tech guys here that come over. It's important. We're not training enough technical people in America. We need more engineers. We need more scientists. We need to have less dependency on China and India to produce those folks. You've got to encourage. My plea to you today is encourage your kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids to start loving math, start loving science, because a lot of the controversy around H.R. 1044 and merit-based is we're going to take American jobs. Friends, you're not taking American jobs if there's nobody in those jobs to take. We've got to get people. It takes 20 years from the time a kid's old enough to understand it at 5 or 6 years old to start getting them in math before they can be 26 years old and actually be a productive engineer, a productive scientist, a productive chemist. We've got to start right now. That ought to be our legacy, is that we change the direction of the engineering and the technological advances to be this country, not China, not Japan, not India. That's where it's at right now. That's where it's at right now. I could go on, but USMCA is huge. We need to get that on the floor and get it voted. It would pass everywhere. Again, Speaker Pelosi controls that. We need to get it on the floor. Everybody I've talked to says they will pass it. I know this community loves the nation of Israel. We've got a few people in Congress right now that are challenging that love of this country, our relationships with Israel, and our Jewish friends across this country and around the world. We've got to do more to continue to build that relationship back to where it was and make sure that it's as strong as it's ever been. And then the last two things. For me personally, being a son of a 22-year Air Force vet, be able to sing that song, to be able to salute this flag, we need to remember the people who give us those freedoms every single day. Well, we're sitting in here and listening to some guy talk, and these guys are out there putting their life on the line around the world and have for years. And we need not forget them. We've done as much as we can possibly do right now to support our veterans, and even reflecting back on the Veterans History Project to forever indel their memories into the Library of Congress, which was pretty emotional for most of them to remember what happened, especially more recently the Gold Star families who have lost loved ones, men and women, their kids who were lost, fighting an 18-year war, so we keep those bad guys that created 9/11 back over there. And we need to remember those folks. And we're doing everything we can to make that happen, and we will continue to do so. And I would like to recognize my friend, Rocky Goins. You guys know him, but Rocky is a United States Naval Academy grad who heads up our liaison group to our Service Academy folks. So any of your kids, grandkids, great-grandkids that have any interest This is the person they will be going through along with 2 other members from the Air Force Academy at West Point. It's a real honor to be able to do that. Our son went to Naval Academy many years ago. It's an honor. It's hard. It's very rewarding. Whether they complete it and do what Rocky did and spent 5 years in the Navy, or you do what our son did, do 2 years and go do something else. Whatever it is, it's an experience of a lifetime. Experience of a lifetime. And I want to stop right there and take any questions you may have. And based on the question, if you want to stay after class, we can spend the rest of the day talking about it. Any questions? Yes, ma'am. Oh my gosh, this is going to be a hard one.
Well, you kind of already touched on it, but as you know, my dad's a farmer, and we have these tariffs that Trump is talking about, and that really hurts farmers, and it's with China. And who owns our debt? China. And it doesn't seem that the president nor Congress are trying to fix our debt, and the debt ceiling keeps going up. And I know how you stand on it, but, you know, explain who and how we can fix this. You know, I know Lankford is on your side with this, but what else can we do? And what are your thoughts on the debt ceiling again, if it goes up again?
Yeah, so democracy, representative republic has its greatness and has its weakness. The weakness for us as it relates to competing or dealing with China is China has been around for a millennium, for thousands and thousands of years, and there are no term limits on their leaders. Their leaders are there until they either get shot, leave, die, whatever. And so President Xi is perfectly fine with waiting at least 2 years, 18 months, or another 5 years and dealing with another leader, which makes it very difficult. I mean, as a business person, I believe the same way the president does. If I can get you to the table, that's the only way I can deal with you. And what the president has seen with Guatemala, with Mexico, with Canada, is that if you come to the table, he's willing. His narrative has always been, again, I've never met him, but his narrative has always been, if I can get you to the table and I can hear your side and you hear mine, we can come out with an agreement. The problem I think he's probably experiencing with China and certainly with North Korea, haven't really gotten to the table with Iran yet, is that you get them to the table, they tell you what they're going to do, and the next time they meet, they say, well, we're just kidding. We're just kidding. We're not going to do that anymore. And so that's a hard place to deal. That's why I said we got to get the USMCA so we can solidify some of the trade relationships with both Mexico, which is our biggest trading partner, and as it relates to agriculture, and then also with Canada, so we can take care of our dairy farmers, because that makes us a more solid block. Right now, we've got to get that on the table so we can more unified work together. I'll tell you something with China that makes it, the numbers are staggering. In the last 30 years, we've gone from a $5 billion trade deficit to over $535 billion. We have an insatiable appetite to buy Chinese-made products. A very, I would say, less than conservative think tank called the Economic Policy Institute said that we lost in a 10-year period from 2001 to 2011 3.7 million jobs and $37 billion in payroll, and that was 8 years ago. I'm sure it's accelerated. You just heard this week that there's been classified a currency manipulator. That is big, because what that means is whatever tariff we put on, they just change their currency so it has very little impact on their people. If you have a 20% tariff that hits your business to try to slow it down, yes, the money is a tax on the American people, but it also slows down, it's an impact on those manufacturers in China. Well, if you go and change your currency by 20 points, then it has no effect on your businesses in China. And that's what the U.S. Treasury said. You know, when you look at a lot of things that's happened bad in China since it joined the World Trade Organization. One of the most moving meetings I've had in my office in D.C., I had the wheat growers of America, their president, come to my office with 2 of their growers. It's probably been about 7 weeks ago. And he said to me, he goes, you know, I'm going to tell you something. We're barely making it. We're barely making it. But what we know is we've been getting messed around by China for our entire farming careers. And if we don't get something now with a person that's willing to stand up to these guys, we're never going to get anything. And we're willing to give the president a little more time. Now, I don't know how much time that is. Again, I don't have those direct relations. What I do know is the president negotiates tariffs and trade, and it comes to the House for approval. What I have been steadfast in, even with the president's trade negotiator, not Lighthizer, but Peter Navarro, who was just on CNN a couple days ago, is that we all are co-equal branches of government. And I voted not to give and was very outspoken in 2 different meetings, along with Kevin Brady, the ranking member of House and Ways and Means, is that we will not unilaterally give away our legislative power to the president, to the executive office, to let them charge tariffs whenever they want to, and to change trade deals whenever they want to. It still has to come to the House. Because for years, all we've done is abdicated power in the House of Representatives and the Senate to the executive branch because it was easy. That's why we have such a bloated government now. We send blocks of money over to EPA and others and let them go make laws, and they're not elected. We let them go do the adjudication process and then fine you and then keep the money in their agencies that never hit the federal treasury. 2017, that was $571 billion that came out of people's pockets in America, businesses, never went back to the federal treasury. That's wrong. We've got to keep our power where it is and get some of it back. So I'm not answering your question directly, Connie, but I'm just saying it's a very complicated process right now. I don't know how much longer people can stand it. Yes, ma'am.
So, Robert, thank you. The staff and the congressman, he was out there with his sleeves rolled up and in the water with me out at Town and Country. But more than that is you're being so proactive now and trying to get something fixed, which has been an issue across the country. So thank you for that. John DeBar, I texted him, he said, thank you. So I also wanted to see if you wanted to mention anything about the levies. You've been really proactive trying to help us push that forward, keep it top of mind, and get those with a permanent fix. Thank you.
So before you sit down, and this is not kumbaya moment anymore. You know, you may know Karen and I are on both sides of the aisle, but this is a classic example of people working together and inviting me out to certain areas and say, I want to show you this. We got to work together to get this done. And us all doing our respective jobs at the right levels. And I will tell you, this lady right here worked her tail off during the floods.
But you were there with me. Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you, that's why I think government should be more local than it is because you have people that can come and call you and know that they can put a face with a name. She held a town hall over at First Baptist Church in Sand Springs, and it was a crowd bigger than this. Let's just say they were less than happy. And we had all of us there. Many of the folks in this room were there from the official side, and you know, the Corps of Engineer guy took it on the chin. Never got hostile. You know, there was nothing really to get hostile about. We went back to make sure that he was actually following his rules and statutes, and he was. So again, if you don't like the rules and statutes, you work to change them. So that's what we're doing. It came from the input from that meeting and from what this lady's done over there, helping this out. These levees are 75 years old. They need to be fixed. Todd Kilpatrick over there has worked his tail off trying to keep those things from inundating Sand Springs. It's crazy. We've got to get them fixed so they're not completely underwater. We're from Arkansas. We saw what happens over our hometown area where one breaks. It's over. I mean, you can't control the water. You can't drop enough sandbags to slow that river down. And because it erodes everything, it eroded out 45 feet deep. There's nothing you can do but sit back and go to high ground. So we've got to work on that. Senator Inhofe's all over that. James Lankford's all over that, and I'm working hard as well to make that happen. It's long overdue. We did a letter to the Corps to accelerate their feasibility study. It's still going to be, they've got a preliminary out right now, I think, where it's at. We're going to have another one. The final one will be out sometime. Well, we're trying to get it done, so we want to get it done in fiscal year 2021 and not wait another cycle or another president or anything else. We want to get it done while it's still fresh so we don't forget what's going on. So thank you again. Yes, ma'am.
Like me, I know many have been hit by the scammers and the spammers and the spoofers. I've had hundreds of text messages saying your loan has been approved, and of course I applied for no loan. So would you comment on a lot more of what's happening?
Yeah, so it's there's actually quite a bit of detail on this, but it's you can opt out. There's actually massive fines that Chairman Pai from the FCC is going to be starting to accelerate. The spoofing is they come in and get a local area code, and you think, well, it says I got 1 minute ago I get them every 15 minutes. I'm concerned, is that a constituent calling with a problem, or is that somebody wanting to sell me life insurance from Thailand? But I figure if it's a constituent, they'll leave a good message. But it's about spamming, spoofing. It's about all the emails you're getting. They're actually looking at the server, the AT&Ts. Roger emphasized here, Cox Communication, through their ability to see where these are originating from. If somebody's masking a number, there's going to be additional regulations put on them as well. So we'll have to see what happens. I just know it's gone from I saw a number, it's gone from 30 billion calls to 59 billion calls year over year. It's out of sight. Brother
Hello,
Willis.
Congressman, thank you for everything you do. You've talked to us about, a bit about your committee roles, but maybe talk to us a little bit about your political roles with the Republican whip team.
Yeah, I didn't go up there to give my vote to anybody else. I mean, I went up there to give my vote to you. I represent you. And so I didn't seek out any kind of leadership teams. I was asked about, I don't know, time flies up there, but probably 6 weeks ago, Steve Scalise grabbed me and he said, we really like a lot of the things you've said in your committees. We've been tracking you. Would you consider being on the whip team? We need somebody with business experience on there. When these bills are coming through, for us to be able to bounce ideas, how does this really affect small business? So I went back and talked to the team, what does that mean from a time commitment? And as a freshman, it doesn't really mean a lot other than you go to a whip meeting and when people run bills through, just like we talked about the minimum wage issue last week, I gave them both sides of that argument. But it's an honor to be part of that. It's not really, it made more news for Randy to write about and others than it really was. I mean, you don't get anything, no Chotskys or anything, so it takes more of your time, really. But thank you for asking that. I mean, it's an honor to help out and give my ideas. I will tell you this. I mean, again, John mentioned it. I mean, this is not, I didn't go up there for another job. I went to really to try to protect the opportunities that we have had, my wife and I have had, to live the American dream in this country. No matter where you came from, you can be as poor as you want to be or as prosperous as you want to be. And, I talk about this all the time in D.C. I am a rarity, I will just tell you. There are very few people that are business people there. Most people are attorneys. No offense to my friends that are attorneys. I mean, everybody needs one, John. That's what I'm saying. Or two, maybe two, right? Or two. It's different. It's great to have real life experiences. And John and I are really good friends with Tom Coburn, and I've told this story so many times, some of you are tired of hearing it, but when he graduated from Muskogee High, a friend of his graduated with him that he saw later after he'd just come out of Congress in 2000. And he said, Tom, he said, I've got my son just graduated from, one of the colored universities, OSU or OU. I won't pick a side here. But he said he really wants to get in politics. Can you tell him the next step to do? And he goes, yeah. He said, go get a career, create something for 30 years, have some failures, and then run for Congress. And that's true. You have a tremendously different perspective on that. I could give you an example of this where leadership, the three leaders in the Republican Party came over to me and asked me why I voted a certain way after they just automatically voted yes because they thought it was harmless. It was a small business thing on reporting fair pay. And it was bifurcating the small business world again. And I said, I will not do that. I'm not saying you shouldn't report the pay, but you should make it all the way down to the person who has one employee, not stop it at 100. Two of the three changed their vote. This is the leadership, the three leaders of the Republican Party. So it matters. You don't gloat on that. You don't go put Facebook posts on that. You just move on down the road. And that was 4 months ago. Is it halftime yet? I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I know that, most of us at the end of the day don't give two hoots about politics. I know that. I was, every single day, until it really affects you or something really irritates you that you don't really care about politics. I didn't really care about ever running for office. Tom Coburn said to me in 2004 when he was running for Senate, we're sitting on the border over in Oklahoma City. I'm a pilot. I just flown him somewhere, and we were getting ready to head back to Wiley Post Airport. And we're sitting there, just him and I, eating Mexican food. And he said, what are you going to be? This is right before the general election. So he had already won the primary. And he says, what are you going to be doing in 10 years? I said, I have no idea. And he said, you should consider running for office. That was in 2004. He missed it by about 2 years. 2 years. But it's just something that, you know, later in life, you want to give back to the greatest country on this planet. And this is my way of giving back. People ask me all the time, how long do I want to do it? I have no idea. But, you know, John asked me, he said, what's been the biggest surprise that you've seen since you've been there? What's been the most impressive thing that you've seen? Well, the biggest surprise I've seen is that, you know, as I said, about half people love you and about half people hate you. You have to get over that very quickly. It's not a true hate. I think it's just disappointment. But really the most impressive person that I've met, I had to think about that a lot because there are a lot of really smart people up there. But I think you tend to want to see people that gave up a lot, that didn't really have to do it, go do the job. And that person is a friend of mine who's a Democrat, who's a freshman, and his name is Dean Phillips. And Dean and I went to the border together. And there were 8 of us that were invited, 4 Republicans, 4 Democrats. 3 of the Democrats didn't want to go, and Dean went. He went by himself with us. And he and I, our other 3 colleagues, took handlers with him, staff. And so Dean and I laughed, both of us business guys, and he said, did you bring anybody? I go, no. I said, did you bring anybody? He goes, no. I said, you staff me and I'll staff you. But when we left there, our whole thought process was we saw what the problems were. We knew there needed to be action. We didn't care about the politics. Let's work on a solution. We came back, and he came back. He came back. He belongs to a group called the Problem Solvers Caucus. It's some moderate Democrats, moderate Republicans. And whenever we were voting on the $4.6 billion package that was not going anywhere in the House, the Senate had already passed it. Chuck Schumer told Nancy to get it going, let's go, and she was pushing back. Dean Phillips' group, the Problem Solvers Caucus, told the speaker to put it on the floor, they were going to vote for it. And you could have seen the air let out of the room because a lot of these folks, they needed somebody on their side to say we've got to get something done. And I'm certain he was a leader in that. I just know him too well so far. Since then, he has taken, last week, our first week of being back in district, he took 18 people to the border. They were difference makers. 9 Democrats, 9 Republicans, to go see what's going on. I challenge you to look him up. Got an incredible background. He just turned 50, great guy, involved in a lot of stuff. He's been very successful in business. The last thing he needs to do is this. But a great, great guy. Again, right now maybe we're just too new to know that you shouldn't try to figure out solutions in America and stop arguing over stupid stuff. But it's kind of fun knowing somebody that's refreshing. It's impressive to see a lot of the people you see on TV up there, but it's really impressive to see somebody who came there for the same reason you did. So with that, thank you all so much. It's great seeing you.
Thank you, Congressman, for a great presentation, and thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule. Your story is inspirational, and we love your no-nonsense, get-to-work attitude. That's really great. We present a book each week as a speaker gift to Celia Clinton Elementary School, and this week the book is titled House Mouse, Senate Mouse, and we'll have you sign that and put that in the Celia Clinton Library. We'd appreciate it. As Rotarians, you are agents of change. Now, take a deep breath and go change the world. We are adjourned.